Hey everyone, welcome back. It's so good to see you here today. Honestly, just the fact that you clicked on this video says a lot about where your heart might be right now. Maybe you're here because you're hurting. Not the kind of hurt that you can slap a band-aid on and forget about, but that deep, invisible kind of pain that no one else can really see, but it just lingers, you know what I mean? Emotional wounds, those heart-level aches, are some of the most powerful and sometimes the most silent battles we fight. And if that's you today, if you're carrying something heavy inside, whether it's a breakup, a betrayal, maybe grief from losing someone, or even pain from something that happened years ago that still echoes in your soul, I want you to know something right up front. You are not alone, not even close. You're in a space right now where healing is possible, where peace is real, and where God's presence is ready to meet you right where you are. You see, I get it. I really do. Because I've walked through that kind of pain myself. And I don't just mean a rough day or a frustrating season. I mean the kind of emotional wound that messes with how you breathe, how you sleep, how you talk to people, how you see yourself. The kind that makes you feel like you're walking around with a 1,000-pound weight on your chest, trying to smile and pretend everything's fine, when inside it feels like your world is falling apart. Have you ever had one of those days where you're doing something totally normal, like driving, folding laundry, walking the dog, and out of nowhere, the tears just start flowing? Or maybe you don't cry at all. Maybe you've gotten so used to pushing everything down that you feel numb instead. Either way, emotional pain has a way of showing up even when we think we've hidden it well. And honestly, sometimes that pain doesn't just come from what someone else did to us. Sometimes it's shame, guilt, regret, the feeling that maybe we should have done something differently, said something differently, or maybe we just weren't enough. Those thoughts, they can eat away at your soul if you let them. I want to pause right here and just say this. If no one has told you lately, I'm sorry for what you've gone through. I'm sorry for the pain you're carrying. For the nights you've cried yourself to sleep, for the moments you've questioned your worth or felt invisible, for the betrayal that shook your trust, for the silence that felt like abandonment, for the ache that just won't go away. I want you to know that what happened to you matters. Your story matters. Your pain matters. And more importantly, your healing matters. And that's why I'm here today. Not because I've got all the answers, or because I think healing is some quick fix that we can just click into place like ordering something on Amazon. No, healing, especially emotional healing, is a process. It's a journey. And that journey, my friend, begins with one very powerful step: turning toward God. Not in some big dramatic, I have it all figured out kind of way, but in a simple, quiet, honest way, where we say, God, I'm hurting, and I don't want to carry this anymore. Please meet me here. That's it. That's where we begin. And listen, you don't have to be religious or perfect or even sure about all this faith stuff to start. You just need to be open to the idea that maybe, just maybe, there's a love out there that's big enough to hold your pain. A love that doesn't judge you for your wounds, but sits with you in them. A love that speaks gently into the broken places and says, you are still worthy. You are still whole. You are still mine. That's the love of God, and healing prayer is how we invite that love in. Before we dive into anything deeper, I just want you to breathe with me for a second. Go ahead. Inhale deeply through your nose and exhale slowly through your mouth. Do that again. Inhale and exhale Just for a moment, let the noise of the world fall away. Let the pressure, the expectations, the distractions all take a back seat. Right now, in this space, it's just you, me, and the presence of a God who sees you completely and loves you entirely. There's no pretending here. You don't need to fix yourself before showing up. You're already enough. You're already seen. And you're already loved. You see, there's something truly beautiful about letting someone into your pain. And I'm not talking about just anyone. I'm talking about letting God into your pain. Because unlike people who might not understand or might say the wrong thing or even make the wound worse, God knows exactly what's going on in your heart. He sees every detail, every tear, every thought you never even said out loud. And he doesn't flinch. He doesn't pull away. He moves closer. Always. I remember this moment. I'll share the full story in just a bit. But I remember sitting alone in my room one night, years ago, after a really hard season where I felt like I lost myself. Everything looked okay on the outside. I still showed up to work. I smiled at church. I replied to texts. But inside, I was wrecked. Something had happened that shook me to my core. And it left this wound in my heart that I didn't know how to name. And the worst part, I didn't tell anyone. I was too embarrassed, too tired of trying to explain something that didn't have neat little words to fit it. But one night, in the quiet, I just whispered, almost out of desperation, "God, if you're really there, I need you to do something. I can't keep feeling like this." It wasn't fancy. It wasn't even particularly spiritual. It was just honest. And in that moment, something shifted. Not everything changed overnight, but I felt peace. A small, steady peace that wrapped around my chest like a warm blanket. And I knew I wasn't alone. That moment was the beginning of something for me. And maybe this video will be the beginning of something for you. I'm not here to fix you. You're not broken. I'm not here to tell you to move on or get over it or just pray harder. No. I'm here to sit with you in the ache and to remind you that there is a gentle, loving, powerful God who wants to bring healing into your emotional wounds. Not with pressure, not with shame, but with kindness, patience, and love. So if you're still with me right now, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. Thank you for being brave enough to admit you need healing. And thank you for trusting me with a few minutes of your day as we walk through this together. What we're about to dive into isn't just about prayer. It's about connection, about presence, about giving ourselves permission to feel, to cry, to hope, and to heal. And most of all, it's about remembering that no matter how deep the wound, God's love goes deeper. No matter how long it's been, healing is still possible, and it can start right here, right now. So take another breath, settle in. This is a safe space, a holy space. And I truly believe that by the time we reach the end of this video, you're going to feel a shift, not because of me, but because of the one who created your heart and knows exactly how to heal it. Let's keep going. I want to tell you a story about someone I knew really well. Let's call her Emily. She could be someone you know, or maybe, just maybe, she sounds a little like you. Emily was one of those people who always looked like she had it all together. You know the type, right? She had a decent job, she showed up for her friends, she posted those cheerful photos on Instagram, and from the outside it seemed like her life was perfectly fine. But the truth? On the inside, she was falling apart, and no one could see it. Not really, not even the people closest to her. Because emotional wounds have this way of hiding behind smiles, behind small talk, behind busyness. and Emily had become a master at hiding hers. What people didn't know was that a few years earlier, she had gone through something that shattered her. It was a relationship that ended. Not just any relationship, but the kind that she thought would last forever. They had talked about marriage. They had dreams, plans, the whole future mapped out. And then in what felt like the blink of an eye, it was gone. No explanation, just distance, and then silence. The kind of silence that echoes louder than words ever could. Emily told me that after the breakup, she tried to bounce back. She tried all the normal things. She read self-help books. She went on a few casual dates. She picked up new hobbies. But deep down, there was a hole in her chest that just wouldn't go away. She felt rejected, abandoned, unworthy. And every time someone said, "You'll get over it," or "Just give it time," she smiled politely, but inside, she was screaming, "You don't understand. This broke something in me." And maybe you felt that too. Maybe it wasn't a breakup. Maybe it was a friendship that dissolved without warning. Maybe it was something your parents said or didn't say when you needed them most. Maybe it was the loss of someone you loved or a betrayal you never saw coming. Whatever it was, it left a mark. And like Emily, you've carried it. Maybe for months, maybe for years. And the thing about emotional wounds is they don't always bleed on the outside, but they leak into every part of your life. Into how you love, how you trust, how you see yourself, how you see God. Emily got to a point where she couldn't keep pretending anymore. One night, she was alone in her apartment, and she said it felt like the walls were closing in. She couldn't stop crying. She felt like her heart was splitting open all over again. She told me later, "I didn't even know what to pray. I just sat there on the floor and whispered, 'God, if you're real, I need you to help me.'" That was it. Just that simple. No fancy words, no spiritual formula, just raw, unfiltered honesty. And that was the turning point. Not because lightning struck or angels showed up in the room, but because for the first time, Emily had opened the door. She invited God into her pain. Not just the surface level stuff, but the deep, hidden, messy places she had tried to fix on her own for so long. And what happened next wasn't instant, but it was real. The next day, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Just a flicker of it, like a soft breeze after a storm. And over the next few weeks, things began to shift. She started waking up without that heavy knot in her chest. She began to journal her prayers, not just what she wanted from God, but how she actually felt. She wrote things like, "God, I'm still angry, and I miss him, and I don't know how to forgive." And she said that every time she did that, every time she chose to be honest with God instead of just strong with the world, something in her started to heal. Slowly, gently, she started reading verses that spoke directly to her situation. Like Psalm 34:18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That verse became her lifeline. She wrote it on a sticky note and put it on her bathroom mirror. Every time she saw it, it reminded her that she wasn't forgotten, that even in the ache, God was near. She also started surrounding herself with people who would pray with her, not just give advice. People who didn't try to fix her, but were willing to sit in the mess and remind her that healing isn't a straight line. And maybe that's something you need to hear too. Healing doesn't always look like a clean finish line. Sometimes it's more like a slow dance of falling apart and coming back together. Of weeping and worship. Of doubt and faith holding hands. And that's okay. That's more than okay. It's holy ground. One moment that really stuck with me from Emily's story was when she told me about this day she sat by a lake, alone, just watching the water. She said, for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. I didn't feel broken. I just felt held. That word, it hit me. Because that's what God does. He doesn't always rush in with answers or solutions. Sometimes he just holds us in the pain, in the silence, in the questions. And that, my friend, is where the healing begins. You see, emotional wounds are tricky. They don't follow timelines. They don't always make sense. But what Emily's story shows us is that healing prayer isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about being brave enough to say, God, it's not okay, and I need you here with me. That one simple prayer, whispered through tears, can open the floodgates of God's mercy, love, and comfort. And maybe that's where you are today, sitting with your own story, your own pain. Maybe your heart still carries the weight of something that happened years ago, or maybe it's fresh, like a cut that won't close. Whatever it is, I want you to know there is hope. There is healing. Not just because Emily's story had a happy ending, but because she discovered something that's available to all of us. A God who is not afraid of our wounds. A God who walks into the middle of our mess, sits down beside us and says, I'm not going anywhere. So if you've ever wondered if God cares about what broke your heart, let me tell you, he absolutely does. If you've ever questioned whether healing is even possible for you, I'm here to say, yes, yes it is. And you don't have to do it alone. We're in this together. Emily's journey might look different from yours. The same God who met her on the floor of her apartment, who sat with her by the lake, who slowly, gently, lovingly put her heart back together, that same God is here for you too. Right here. Right now. You don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to carry it alone. You don't have to be strong all the time. What you do have to be is honest. Just start there. That's what Emily did. That's what I did. And that's what I'm inviting you to do today. Let's keep going. There's more ahead. And I promise, it's good. You see, healing prayer isn't magic. It's not some secret formula or spiritual vending machine where you say the right words, push the right buttons, and boom, God fixes everything. I think a lot of people have that idea though, like if I say this perfect prayer, or if I believe hard enough, or if I cry just the right amount, maybe then God will show up. But healing prayer isn't about performance. It's about surrender. It's about opening your heart with all its cracks and bruises and bandages and letting God in, not to patch you up like some quick repair job, but to be with you in it, to sit with you in your sorrow, to walk with you through the pain, and to whisper truth to your soul when everything else feels loud and overwhelming. When Jesus walked the earth, he didn't rush past people's pain. He stopped for it. He leaned into it. Think about the woman who had been bleeding for 12 years. She touched the edge of his robe and was instantly healed. But before she could slip away unnoticed, Jesus turned around. He looked for her. He called her daughter. He didn't just heal her body. He saw her heart, her story, her suffering, and he spoke identity back into her life. That's what healing prayer does. It's not just about asking God to take away the pain. It's about letting him see us in it and letting ourselves be seen. And look, I know how vulnerable that is. It's scary, honestly, because sometimes we're not even sure we want to feel again. Sometimes we've numbed out for so long that the thought of opening up that old wound feels terrifying. Like if we go there, we might drown in it. But here's the truth. When you bring your emotional wounds into the light of God's love, they don't grow. They begin to shrink. They lose their power. Because what lives in darkness has control. But what's brought into God's presence gets redefined, repurposed, redeemed. I remember this one pastor, Pastor Tim, from a small church in North Carolina. He used to say something I'll never forget. He said, "Healing isn't when the pain is gone. Healing is when the pain no longer owns you." Let that sink in for a second, because that's powerful, and it's true. Healing doesn't mean you'll never feel sadness again. It doesn't mean the memories disappear. What it means is that those memories no longer define you. The sadness no longer dictates your joy. The betrayal no longer poisons your relationships. The pain no longer holds your identity hostage. Because now something greater does. God's love, God's truth, God's power. And the way we get there is through healing prayer. Not just once, not just when things feel overwhelming, but daily, consistently, with honesty and trust. Healing prayer is like a slow pour of warm oil over a wounded soul. It softens the hard places. It soothes the aching parts. It breaks down the walls we didn't even know we built. And it reminds us, over and over again, that we are not our trauma. We are not our heartbreak. We are not what happened to us. We are God's beloved. And that truth is what begins to rebuild us from the inside out. The Bible says in Isaiah 61:1, "He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted." That was a prophecy about Jesus. Binding up the brokenhearted, it means tending to the heart like a careful physician. Jesus didn't come just to save us from sin. He came to heal what's been shattered. And healing prayer is how we invite him into that process. There's this beautiful thing that happens when you start to bring your emotional pain into prayer. At first, it feels raw, maybe awkward. You might not even know what to say. But God doesn't need polished words. He needs your presence, your willingness. Even if your prayer sounds like, "God, I don't even know how to do this, but I'm here," that's enough. In fact, sometimes that's the most powerful prayer of all. The simple, honest ones. The whispered, "Help me." The choked up, "I'm tired." The frustrated, "I don't understand." God can work with that. He honors that. And slowly, over time, something begins to shift. The wound that felt like it defined you begins to feel less sharp. The thought that used to trigger tears starts to lose its sting. You find yourself breathing deeper, laughing a little more, trusting a little again. And you might not even realize it's happening, but that's the power of healing prayer. It works beneath the surface. It's like roots growing under the soil. You don't see them at first, but one day you look up and notice there's a little green sprout where there used to be only dust. That's how God heals. Gently, faithfully, completely. And I know there are some of you watching this who are thinking, "But I've prayed, I've cried, I've begged, and nothing's changed," and I hear you. I really do. But can I gently offer this thought? Sometimes healing doesn't come the way we expect. Sometimes it doesn't come all at once. Sometimes the miracle is in the process. In the way God holds you through the night. In the way he places the right song, or the right person, or the right verse in your path at the exact moment you need it. In the way your heart starts to feel a little lighter, even if your circumstances don't shift. And sometimes, the very act of turning to God in the middle of your pain, that is the healing. Because for the first time, you're not carrying it alone. There's a story in John 11 where Jesus' friend Lazarus dies. When Jesus arrives, Lazarus has already been dead for 4 days. His sisters, Mary and Martha, are heartbroken. They say, "If you had been here, he wouldn't have died." And Jesus, even though he knows he's about to raise Lazarus from the dead, does something beautiful. He weeps. He doesn't rush to the miracle. He enters the grief. He lets his heart break with theirs. That's what healing prayer reveals about God. He's not distant. He's not indifferent. He's moved by your pain. He sits with you in it. And then he brings life back where death once ruled. So if your emotional wounds feel like a tomb, like something in you has died, please hear me. Resurrection is possible. Not just in Bible stories, in your life, in your heart, in your story. God is still in the business of raising what we thought was lost. And healing prayer is how we hand him the stone and say, okay, God, roll it away. Do what only you can do. I truly believe that when we pray, when we open our hearts and invite God into our emotional pain, something shifts in the atmosphere. Heaven leans in, the Spirit begins to move, and the chains that have held us for far too long start to loosen, little by little, until one day we realize we're free. Not because we forced it, not because we earned it, but because God is who he says he is, our healer, our restorer, our redeemer. And friend, I want that for you. Not just a moment of relief, but a lifetime of restoration. A deep, soul-level healing that only comes from the one who knows you best and loves you most. And the first step isn't complicated. It's just this. Talk to him. Begin the conversation. Let healing prayer be the doorway that leads you back to life, back to joy, back to wholeness. It's already available. All you have to do is receive it. So now that we've talked about the depth of emotional wounds and the real spiritual power of healing prayer, you might be wondering, okay, but how do I actually do this? Like, what does healing prayer look like in real life? And I'm really glad you asked that, because the truth is, healing prayer doesn't have to be complicated, formal, or reserved for just Sundays or special moments. It's actually something you can carry with you every single day. It can become as natural and essential as breathing. Let me break it down for you. Not like a lecture, but more like if we were sitting in your living room right now, just having a heart-to-heart conversation, cup of coffee in hand, and you said, I want to try this. I just don't know where to start. I'd smile and say, let's start simple. First things first, find a quiet space. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a beautiful prayer corner with candles and worship music playing in the background, though if that's your thing, go for it. But healing prayer happens in the real, raw spaces of your everyday life. That might be in your bedroom at the end of the day, or in your car before work, or in the shower when no one else can hear you, or even during a walk around the block when you're trying to clear your head. The space doesn't matter as much as your posture. And by posture, I don't mean sitting or kneeling a certain way. I mean the posture of your heart, the willingness to slow down, to get quiet, to breathe, and to turn inward with honesty and invite God into the conversation. Once you've found your quiet space, just pause, take a deep breath. Seriously, right now even. Inhale slowly through your nose, hold it for a second, and exhale gently through your mouth. Let your body come down a level. Let your soul know it's safe. You don't have to fight right now. You don't have to perform. You can just be. That's the starting point. That's where healing begins. Then start talking. I know that might sound too easy, but I promise you, it's real. Prayer is conversation, not presentation. God doesn't need a polished speech. He just wants your heart. So be honest, be raw, be unfiltered. Say it like it is. Something like, God, I'm hurting and I don't even know what to do with all this pain. I feel lost. I feel abandoned. I'm still carrying things that happened to me years ago and I don't know how to let them go. I don't know how to forgive. And honestly, I don't even know if I want to. But I know I need you. I know I can't do this on my own anymore. So please, help me, heal me, show me how to begin again. That's a healing prayer. That's all it is. You don't need to quote verses or use poetic words. You just need to tell the truth. And if you don't have the words, that's okay too. Just sit there. Breathe. Cry if you need to. God hears the prayers of your tears. He understands the language of silence. And if all you can whisper is Jesus, that's enough. Because there's healing in His name. There's power in His presence. And sometimes, just calling on Him opens the door to a healing you didn't even realize you were ready for. Now, if you want something a bit more structured to hold on to, because I know some of us like having a little guide to follow, here's a simple framework I often share with friends who are new to healing prayer. Think of it like 4 gentle steps. Pause, open, invite, rest. Let's walk through it together. Pause. Just like we did a moment ago, take time to pause. Get still. Turn off the noise. Let yourself breathe. Let your body come down from the stress, from the rush. Create space, mentally and emotionally, for God to meet you. Open. This is the vulnerable part. This is where you open your heart. You can say something like, God, this is what's hurting me right now. And then name it. Name the wound. I feel rejected because of what she said. I still can't shake the pain of losing him. I feel like I wasn't enough. Whatever it is, speak it out loud. Not because God doesn't already know, but because saying it breaks the silence that shame thrives in. Opening your heart is how you start letting light into those dark corners. Invite. This is where you bring God into it. Say, Jesus, I invite you into this wound. I give you permission to heal what I can't fix, to hold what I can't carry, to mend what I don't even know how to name. That invitation is powerful. It gives God room to move. It releases you from having to be the one who solves it all. It places your pain in His hands instead of your own. Rest. This is maybe the hardest part for some of us. Just rest. Don't rush to feel better. Don't try to force emotions. Just sit in God's presence. You might want to play a worship song that speaks to your heart. You might just sit in silence. You might weep or feel peace or feel absolutely nothing. All of it is okay. Rest is the exhale. It's the surrender. It's the trust. And in that rest, God often speaks the most clearly. You can do this whole thing in 10 minutes or an hour or however long you feel led. There's no right or wrong. There's just real. And real is where healing lives. Let me also offer you a few sample prayers. Short, simple, honest ones you can come back to anytime. Maybe you want to write them down or even speak them out loud as part of your daily rhythm. God, I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. I invite you into my brokenness. Heal what I've tried to hide for so long. Jesus, I give you my anger, my sadness, my fear. I can't carry it anymore. I need your peace. Please come into this place in my heart. Lord, I don't know how to forgive them, but I want to. Please meet me in this struggle and teach me how. Heavenly Father, remind me that I am more than what hurt me, that I am yours and that you still have good for me. You can take these and personalize them, make them your own. Add your details, your story, your rawness. God wants you, not the cleaned up version. He wants your tears, your anger, your confusion, your doubts. He can handle all of it. In fact, He already carried it on the cross. That's what makes healing prayer different from just venting or journaling. You're not just speaking into the air. You're speaking to the one who created you, who knows your wounds, and who already paid the price for your healing. And there is no wound too deep, no past too messy, no emotion too heavy that his love can't hold. So the next time the pain creeps in, whether it's in the middle of the night or at a random moment during your day, pause. Breathe. Whisper that simple prayer again, Jesus, I need you here, and believe that he's listening. Because he is. He always is. Healing prayer is not about being fixed. It's about being known, being seen, being held. And I promise you, if you keep showing up, even in the smallest ways, healing will happen. Not always all at once, but piece by piece, day by day, like a sacred puzzle, being gently put back together by the hands of a loving God. So now that we've talked about what healing prayer looks like, how it works, and how to begin, let's be real about something that so many of us struggle with. Consistency. I know, it's one thing to have a moment of connection with God when you're overwhelmed or really hurting, but building a habit, coming back to prayer every single day, especially when you don't feel like it, that's a whole different challenge. And I get it. Life is busy, schedules are packed, emotions are unpredictable. Some days you're ready to fall into God's arms, and other days you can barely form a sentence, let alone a prayer. And yet, healing takes time. It takes space. And most of all, it takes returning again and again to the one who restores us. Not because we're perfect at it, but because we're willing. I want to say this gently but honestly. Healing isn't a one-time prayer, it's a lifestyle of surrender. And to live that way, you're going to need rhythms, anchors, simple, life-giving practices that help keep your heart soft and your spirit open. So let me share a few things that have made a massive difference for me and others I've walked alongside. These aren't complicated, they're not magic tricks, but when you put them into practice, day after day, they create space for God to keep doing what only He can do in your life. Let's start with something super simple. Pick a time. I know that sounds basic, but trust me, it's powerful. Choose a moment in your day where you can consistently pause and invite God into your space. For some people, it's first thing in the morning, before their feet even hit the floor. For others, it's while drinking their coffee or sitting in the car before going into work. Personally, I like to end my day with prayer. That quiet nighttime moment, when everything's settled, the lights are low, and the world has finally stopped demanding things from me. That's when my heart feels most ready to speak and listen. The point is, don't leave it to chance. Build it in. Even if it's just 5 minutes. The same way we brush our teeth or scroll our phones without thinking twice, healing prayer can become something our soul naturally reaches for once we create that daily rhythm. And speaking of rhythm, one of the things that helps me stay consistent is pairing prayer with something comforting. I'm serious. For me, it's tea. Every evening I brew a cup of chamomile tea, sit on the edge of my bed, take a deep breath, and just say, okay, God, I'm here. That's it. That's the starting point. It's small, but it matters. The tea doesn't have spiritual power or anything, but it's a physical cue. It tells my body, this is our time to slow down, to reflect, to connect. Maybe for you it's a walk, or lighting a candle, or sitting on your porch in the morning. Whatever it is, find something that helps you shift gears emotionally, something that gently nudges your heart toward God. Another thing that really helps? Journaling. And I know some of you just groaned a little inside. You're thinking, I'm not a journal person, or that takes too much time, or what would I even write? I hear you. I used to think the same thing, but hear me out. Journaling after prayer isn't about being poetic or profound. It's not about writing for an audience. It's about noticing. It's about giving yourself a chance to see what's happening under the surface. Sometimes, I write down the prayer itself, just a few lines of what I said to God. Other times, I write how I felt before and after. Some days it's messy and short, like, cried during prayer, still mad, still hurting, but felt peace when I said his name. And that's enough. Because over time, when you go back and read little snapshots, you'll begin to see something beautiful. Progress, growth, healing. The quiet, sacred unfolding of a journey you might have missed if you hadn't paused to write it down. Now, I also want to talk about expectations, because this one sneaks up on us. If you're like me, you might go into healing prayer thinking, okay, I'm going to feel better right away, or God's going to speak something loud and clear today. And when that doesn't happen, it's easy to feel discouraged. But friend, I want you to hear this. The goal of prayer isn't always to feel something. The goal is to stay connected, to return, to keep the door open. Some days your prayer will feel like a deep release. Other days, it might feel quiet, dry, even confusing. Both are valid. Both are part of the process. Trust isn't built in the moments we feel goosebumps. Trust is built in the silence, in the repetition, in the faithful act of showing up, even when it's hard. And while we're on that, if you miss a day or 2 or 10, don't beat yourself up. Seriously. This isn't about guilt, it's about grace. Healing is not a test you pass or fail. It's a relationship. And God is not keeping a checklist of how many days you've prayed. He's simply waiting for you with open arms every time you return, every time you whisper his name, every time you take that breath and say, I'm back. He never left. He never stopped listening. He never stopped loving you. Another small but powerful habit I love: speaking scripture out loud. There's something about declaring truth, even when your feelings don't match, that creates spiritual alignment. Verses like Psalm 147:3, He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds, or Isaiah 43:2, When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, have carried me through so many heavy days. Write them on sticky notes. Put them in your journal. Save them in your phone. Repeat them until your soul starts to believe them again. Because the truth doesn't stop being true when we stop feeling it. And speaking God's promises out loud gives our healing process roots. It grounds us when everything else feels uncertain. Lastly, find people who walk this road with you. I can't stress this enough. Healing is personal, yes, but it's not meant to be lonely. Find someone you trust, a friend, a mentor, a prayer partner, maybe even a small group or an online community, somewhere you can say, hey, I'm struggling today, or would you pray with me? We were never meant to do this in isolation, and something powerful happens when someone else speaks healing over your life, when they remind you of who you are, when they hold your heart with gentleness and faith. We all need that. You need that. And you can offer that to someone else too. So take these little habits and start small. One breath, one prayer, one honest sentence, one verse, one moment of quiet, and then do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next. Not perfectly, just faithfully. Because healing doesn't come from perfection, it comes from presence. And the more often you come back to God, the more you'll notice something changing. Maybe not all at once, but slowly, steadily, quietly, like the sunrise inching over the horizon, painting light where darkness once ruled. You'll look up one day and realize, I'm not where I used to be. I'm still healing, but I'm not broken anymore. That's the gift of healing prayer. Not a quick escape, but a gentle, loving journey toward wholeness. A daily conversation with the one who sees you, loves you, and is fully committed to restoring every part of your heart. Hey, before we wrap up today, I just want to take a moment, just a quiet, sacred pause to speak right to your heart, not to your situation, not to your timeline, not even to your pain, but to you. Because you're not just someone watching a video, you're someone who's here right now, breathing through the ache, leaning into healing, and choosing, maybe for the first time in a long time, to believe that things could change. And I just want to say that matters. That's brave, that's holy, that's beautiful. Whatever brought you here today, whether it was a sleepless night, a hurting heart, a random YouTube recommendation, or the desperate need for something, anything to finally make sense, I want you to know it wasn't random. You didn't end up here by accident. I truly believe that God brought you to this exact moment because He has something real, something healing, something life-giving for you. Not just in theory, but in practice. Not just for other people, but for you. You, the one who's been carrying the weight of emotional wounds that no one else could see. The one who learned to smile through pain, to laugh through tears, to stay strong when you were crumbling inside. The one who didn't give up, even when it would have been easier to walk away. You're still here. And that is not nothing. That is grace. I want to remind you, because maybe you've forgotten, that you are not alone in this. You're not crazy for feeling what you feel. You're not weak for wanting to cry. You're not behind for still healing. You're not broken beyond repair. You're human. And more than that, you're deeply, fiercely, relentlessly loved by the God who made you. The God who sees every hidden part of you. The God who's collected every tear you've ever cried. The God who knows your pain even better than you do, and chooses to stay close, not far away. His name is Jesus. And He's not intimidated by your mess. He's not discouraged by how long it's taking. He's not disappointed in your struggle. He is near, He is kind, He is gentle, and He is absolutely committed to walking with you every single step of this healing journey. Not for a moment, for a lifetime. So please, give healing prayer a chance. I mean that. Give it a real chance. Not just a one-time cry for help, but an ongoing conversation. Let it be your anchor when everything else feels shaky. Let it be the soft place where your soul can land at the end of a hard day. Let it be the light you reach for when the darkness starts to creep in again. Let it be the way you connect, not just with your emotions, but with the God who created your heart and knows exactly how to mend it. Don't worry if it feels awkward at first. Don't stress if you miss a day. Don't feel like you have to get it perfect. You're not being graded here, you're being held. And every small step you take matters. Every whispered prayer, every breath of surrender, every moment of honesty. It all counts. It all builds something beautiful inside you that no one can take away. A quiet kind of strength, a gentle kind of hope, a deep kind of peace. And I want you to know, you don't have to do this alone. Not now. Not ever. There's a community right here, growing one heart at a time, where people are learning to heal, to hope, and to believe again. So if this video spoke to something deep in you, if you felt even a flicker of connection or peace or encouragement, I would absolutely love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and join us here. Not just as a number, not just as a viewer, but as part of this circle of people who are doing the hard, beautiful work of becoming whole again. This is a space for the tender-hearted, the question askers, the brave souls who are learning to pray their way through pain and come out stronger on the other side. And we would love for you to walk with us. And hey, leave a comment below if you feel led. You don't have to tell your whole story unless you want to, but maybe just drop a line about what you're healing from, or what kind of peace you're asking God for today. Or maybe even just say, I'm here. I promise you, I read every single one. Not to be nosy, not to analyze or judge, but because I genuinely care. And I believe there's power in being seen. There's power in telling the truth. There's power in saying I'm still healing, but I'm still showing up. And maybe your comment is the exact thing someone else needs to read today. Maybe your vulnerability becomes someone else's hope. That's how healing works. It spreads, it multiplies, it becomes this quiet revolution of hearts being made whole, one brave prayer at a time. So thank you. Truly, thank you for being here. For spending this time with me, for opening your heart even just a little. That's where it starts. And if you ever forget this moment, if the pain comes back or the doubt starts shouting again, I want you to come back to this truth. You are not your wounds. You are not your failures. You are not what happened to you. You are loved. You are chosen. You are being healed. And the God who started something in your heart today, He's not finished. Not even close. Until next time, stay strong, stay soft, stay hopeful. And remember, God's healing is closer than you think. If this video encouraged you, helped you take even one small step toward healing, I'd love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Live According to God's Word. We're building something real here, full of truth, grace, and stories like yours. And if you know someone who's hurting right now, someone who needs to hear that healing is still possible, please consider sharing this video with them. You never know whose life could be touched because you hit share. Thanks again for being part of this journey with me. I'll see you in the next video.